She unknowingly takes the wrong bag at the airport. Discover how a billionaire can't forget her. After a grueling 12-hour shift at the hospital, Emily sprinted through the bustling O'Hare International Airport, her mind foggy with fatigue, her heart racing with a mix of urgency and disbelief at how quickly these 12-hour shifts drained her. There was no lingering chat with coworkers. She just needed to get home to her brother, who was cooking dinner for the first time. The chaos around her faded as she scanned the terminal. With her mind barely functioning, she inadvertently snatched a luxurious designer bag, its handles smooth under her fingertips. She didn't even notice her mistake as she dashed toward the door, the weight of exhaustion heavy on her shoulders. Once in the solitude of her apartment, a bitter exhaustion washed over her. She slumped against the counter, a dull ache flaring up in her lower back. The bag rested like a foreign object in the middle of her kitchen. It was then that a flicker of curiosity ignited in her heart, battling against the imploring whispers of practicality that begged her to put it down and let it go. She unzipped the bag, revealing its shimmering contents. Designer sunglasses, a pristine leather wallet, and the kind of gadgets that spelled wealth and privilege crowded the space. Yet, in the midst of such luxury, an emptiness echoed within her, one that spoke to her modest upbringing and a life spent believing in the value of hard work. Was this the world she never belonged to? Her thoughts tumbled like loose coins, a wrenching mix of reverence and resentment. She felt the weight of her responsibilities like a boulder, pressing her down, reminding her of her duties. She was a nurse, a caretaker for others, yet here she was surrounded by the trappings of affluence that felt so alien. Did she dare to dream of a life where her aspirations mattered? The contrast gnawed at her. The fear of never pursuing her own dreams made her stomach tighten. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As anxiety simmered, she picked up a slip of paper tucked beneath a sleek tablet, a handwritten note, its authenticity sharp against the artificial world of luxury. It wasn't just an item in the bag. It felt like a glimpse into a soul. At that moment, her heart raced again, not merely from exhaustion. Somebody, somewhere, missed this bag, missed everything inside it. Who was he? A billionaire? A tech mogul? The emptiness felt magnified, while she had taken on the weight of her family. This man carried the burden of isolation. Meanwhile, miles away, Jack Hunter realized his bag had gone missing. Frustration quickly morphed into vulnerability as he examined its contents. How odd, he thought, to feel unsettled about a collection of items that had never defined who he was, yet it felt significant, too significant to ignore. That handwritten note caught his eye, unveiling a world he longed to connect with. And as Emily's story unfolded, Jack's philosophical journey towards understanding genuine connection began, leading him to a community initiative where he meet the very woman who crossed his path unknowingly. But here, in her dimly lit apartment, the tension rose. Emily's heart thudded painfully against her ribcage, wondering if she could ever reshape her reality woven with Jack's luxurious existence. She felt trapped between two lives, fragmented dreams spiraling into chaos. She could never truly belong to his world, yet his presence was nagging, teasing her thoughts. Is it possible to dream of a future that felt so out of reach? As she stood by the window, looking out into the sprawling Chicago skyline, she felt a storm brewing within her. Who was she meant to be? And as something profound began to unravel from the depths of that designer bag, a haunting question lingered in the air. Would Jack ever find his way back to her? The morning sun filtered through the small kitchen window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air like forgotten dreams. Emily stood at the table, the designer bag splayed open before her, remnants of another exhausting shift at the hospital, a stark contrast to the wealth concealed within the fibers of that purse. She resisted the urge to delve deeper into its contents, but the handwritten note nagged at her curiosity with its unyielding pull. Taking a deep breath, she reached for the note. It felt alive in her hands, filled with the potential of a story that was not hers. A few words scribbled in elegant handwriting captured her attention. Be mindful of what you choose to carry. Those words resonated deeply within her, igniting a spark of recognition she had not acknowledged before. What did she carry in her own life? The weight of her family's expectations and her unyielding responsibilities overshadowed her every decision. Reflecting on her burden, she realized the truth lay not just in what she carried, but in what she yearned to pursue. The thrill of nursing, once the light of her life, had dimmed beneath the relentless weight of obligation. She began questioning her dreams, the ones she had buried under years of selflessness. Did she dare to nurture them again? The note felt like an invitation, urging her to confront her own reality, a call to redefine her identity beyond the walls of the hospital. Determination bubbled within her, but apprehension followed closely. Could she truly step into a realm where she could unapologetically chase her aspirations? Still holding the note, she picked up the sleek tablet, noting the glint of sophistication in its design. The juxtaposition of her existence in this world of luxury was undeniable. She needed to act first, by returning the bag. But something more lurked beneath that initial decision. The insignificance of her malevolent thoughts versus the allure of possibility began to create an internal rift. Days passed under a cloudy veil where the rhythmic monotony of hospital shifts dominated her life. Time crawled as the echoes of her brother's laughter, mixed with her own frustrations, faded in and out like distant thunder. Each day, she passed the designer bag, growing eager and anxious. A plan began to shape in her mind, a reckless, yet hopeful strategy to regain purpose. She could attend Jack's community initiative. Perhaps returning the bag could bridge their worlds, connecting her dreams with his luxurious existence in an unexpected way. Simultaneously, Jack's world spun in a similar dance of longing and contemplation. At first, he dismissed the missing bag, yet as the days trickled by, it consumed him. Whispers of who owned what flourished in his mind, but the most pressing thought remained the longing for human connection. He poured himself into the community initiative, crafting moments that felt genuine and impactful, all while waiting for a serendipitous encounter that could tether him to something real. As Emily stood before her mirror one afternoon, she realized that the reflection staring back was one she barely recognized. Her scrubs, and armor for her profession, hadn't allowed the light of her dreams to shine through. Today was the day she would break free from that somber armor. She hesitated briefly, before shedding the scrubs in favor of a new outfit that whispered possibility. That evening, armed with the designer bag and a heart full of determination, she stepped onto the bustling streets of Chicago. She was ready to face whatever awaited her, even if it meant confronting the prospect of her own hidden desires. Her determination crackled in the air as she moved towards the community center, unaware that Jack was there, anticipating a moment of enlightenment that could lead him to a fresh beginning. Would their paths finally converge? Would she find the courage to alter the course of her life in this unexpected serendipity? The city pulsed around them, whispering promises of what was to come, while both Emily and Jack teetered on the brink of transformation. Emily's heart raced as she approached the community center. The positive buzz of the evening air contrasted sharply with the anxiety coiling in her stomach. She had always excelled at navigating the chaos of the hospital, where lives balanced on the edge of a knife's point. Yet, standing here, she felt unmoored, like a novice in a world where she had to continuously prove her worth. The sidewalk buzzed with laughter and conversations, creating a backdrop that amplified her internal struggle. She clutched the designer bag tighter, the weight inside it feeling heavier with each step. Was she ready to confront Jack? The purpose of their meeting felt intrinsically tangled with her own self-discovery. She had to return the bag, yes, but wouldn't that also mean exposing her own long-buried ambitions? Inside the community space, the ambience was welcoming, and the faint smell of coffee wafted through the air. It felt like a different world, one where aspirations could be vocalized and nurtured, rather than relegated to whispered secrets in her heart. But before she could scan the crowd for Jack, her eyes landed on a nearby group of people animatedly discussing a new health initiative. They radiated a passion she instinctively craved as she had once done with nursing, a field she had thought bore her name. Her insecurities clawed at her as the memories flooded back. Would they accept her if she dared to care again? She saw the fire in their eyes, the unyielding belief that their work could create change. Perhaps there lay a glimmer of a path leading back to the joy once found in her vocation. If only she could summon the courage to step toward it. Gritting her teeth, she pushed through the whirl of thoughts, her focus sharpening. She was no longer just a tired nurse. She was a woman standing at a crossroads, daring to grapple with loss, but yearning to find her way to hope. It was then that she spotted Jack across the room, his tall figure framed against the backdrop of vibrant conversations. His presence ignited something deep within her, a pull toward connection, a sense of familiarity wrapped in a veil of possibility. Before she could second-guess the moment, Emily moved toward him. He turned as she approached, surprise flickering across his features before giving way to something softer and more inviting. "You came," he said, his voice a warm balm against the tumult swirling in her chest. "I brought this," she said, gesturing to the bag. His brow furrowed in confusion, but the warmth didn't leave his eyes. She felt those words pressing against her, as if the weight of the bag carried her personal revelations. "Let us step outside," he suggested, sensing her hesitance. The streets were cooler than the engulfed heat of the community space, but they moved toward a quieter corner under the glow of a street lamp. It should have been a simple return, yet, harnessed in that moment was the latent potential for change. In the soft lamplight, the full realization of what she was about to do hit her with a freshness that reflected her own internal cadence. She was not only returning a bag, she was also reclaiming a piece of her lost identity, a fragmented dream she had tucked away. It stabilized her shaky breath as she began to speak. Jack watched her intently, his expression shifting from intrigue to understanding. "You look different," he noted, as if recognizing not just her outfit, but the inner transformation she wore like an armor of renewal. "So do you." The unexpected weight of their two stories collided in the space between them, the air crackling with potential. But with vulnerability came risk. Would he see her not just as a nurse, but as someone with desires and dreams worth exploring? With the designer bag cradled between them, she hesitated. Was she ready to face the reality of her aspirations not just with Jack, but within herself? The moment felt suspended, thick with layers of potential, filled with uncharted territories lurking just beyond her spoken words. She knew the journey was just beginning, but would he embrace the woman she strove to become? In that moment of uncertain clarity, she realized this could be her first step into not merely confronting obstacles, but overcoming them. Yet, with hesitation bubbling on the surface, she wondered, what other layers had she concealed? As Jack stepped closer, Emily faced not only him, but also the daunting shadows of her past decisions waiting for their reckoning. The street lamp flickered slightly, casting a warm glow that highlighted the air of uncertainty swirling between them. Emily caught herself holding her breath. Jack's gaze was steady, probing the places she had kept hidden even from herself. How many years had she practiced the art of avoidance, camouflaging her true intentions under layers of professionalism and pragmatism? "I feel like a ghost in my own life," she confessed softly, the words slipping out before she could censor them. Jack furrowed his brow. "What do you mean?" She could feel the heat creeping up her neck, a stark contrast to the cool night air. "Nursing was my identity, my passion. Over the years, it morphed into an obligation, a routine I just followed. But I've lost sight of what I wanted, what made me me." Jack's expression shifted, and what she sensed was not pity but comprehension. "You didn't come here just to return a bag, did you?" His observation hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Emily looked down at the designer bag, now feeling more like a brick than an accessory. "No, I've been so afraid of admitting what I truly wanted, as though by saying it, the dream would vanish forever." In that moment, the swirling doubts and fears seemed to coalesce into a single point of clarity. Realization struck. She was standing on the cusp of redefining her life. Would she recede back into the shadows or step into the light, actively crafting her narrative instead of being swept along by the tide of expectations? "Emily," Jack said, breaking her reverie, "what if I told you that sometimes the best way to rediscover yourself is to openly ask for what you want? The world is less frightening when you take steps toward it." She met his eyes, and with that gaze, something broke free within her, a flicker of a fight she thought long extinguished. What if I dared to desire? His smile inspired warmth as he encouraged, then let us explore together. What's your vision? In the deep well of her mind, she started to articulate the long-dormant ideas that had been locked away. I want to develop a community health project, focusing on mental wellness. I've seen firsthand how critical it is, especially within urban settings, but I've always feared stepping out of my comfort zone. Then why don't we make it happen? Jack's enthusiasm was palpable, igniting a spark in her empty spaces. You know people in that world, you have the experience. You could lead it. The idea hung between them, tantalizing and terrifying. Nevertheless, there were barriers. Self-doubt loomed large, accompanied uncertainly by personal biases and ingrained fears. Was she ready to commit to such an endeavor? A tremor coursed through her as she contemplated the potential of action overtaking inertia. Her previous encounters had dictated too many of her moves, made too many choices for fear of standing apart from the crowd. This was different. This was raw and uncovered, a percolating urge to claim ownership over what she wanted. Let us try, she finally said, her voice steadying. Let us see where this might lead. Jack's expression brightened as he nodded knowingly. Together, then, step by step. It was a tentative promise, yet it felt like stepping off the edge into unknown waters, trusting that she'd either learn to swim or soar. There was doubt, still a great deal of it, but for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope intertwined with possibility. As they spoke about preliminary ideas, she could almost sense a thread of her former self weaving back into place. However, beneath this newfound determination lurked a nagging question. If she took this leap, what would she have to relinquish? Her past career weighed heavily, a form of attachment that was as comforting as it was stifling. As they started brainstorming plans, a subtle shift in the atmosphere caught her attention. Jack's phone buzzed in his pocket, and he glanced at the screen, his face momentarily faltering. What if this development began to unsettle not just her life, but also his? She sensed there was more to his life than he had revealed, and before this night was over, she needed to confront that, too. Jack, she said, a newfound courage washing over her. What about you? What do you want? The question hung in the air, heavy, potent, and ripe with meaning, marking the start of a new chapter, one where both of them would discover what lay beyond their present circumstances. In that suspended moment, amidst hopes intertwining with uncertainties, Emily realized they both stood on the brink of transformation. But was she prepared to uncover the complexities that lay ahead, not just for herself, but for Jack as well? Jack's gaze flickered for an instant, searching, as if he were weighing his options against the weight of her question. The air between them thickened with expectancy, resonating with the tension of uncharted territory. Emily's heart raced, her stomach twisting in knots. She had opened a door with that inquiry, awakening truths that both remained unspoken and were essential to their journey. What do I want? Jack echoed, the question hanging like a fragile thread connecting their lives. I suppose I want. He paused, and Emily leaned closer, her senses heightened by the intensity of the moment. Connection, he finally admitted. In my work, I've built this enormous empire, but I often wonder about genuine relationships, about what it means to be present in someone's life without the weight of status or expectation. I've been running a marathon, but for what? His words struck a deep chord within her. She recognized the vulnerability beneath his confident exterior, the dance of fear and ambition that resonated with her own reality. So often, they wore masks, projecting polished images while shielding themselves from the heaviness of authenticity. I can relate, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. In a way, I've been doing the same. I've pursued a career that became more about accolades than fulfillment. The pressure to succeed overshadowed what should have been a joyous vocation. Jack nodded in understanding, the conversation weaving intricately between their dreams and disappointments. They were two travelers finding common ground in unfamiliar territory. As the warmth of the street lamp faded, a collective determination took root, two souls yearning for transformation. Let us define this vision clearly, Emily suggested, the idea boggling anew in her mind. What kind of community health project do we want it to be? We need to consider the particulars, our goals, and the impact we hope to achieve. Jack's expression brightened. We can start with mental wellness strategies that are easily accessible. Perhaps mobile health resources that cater specifically to stress management? We've seen how critical this is. Together, we can outline plans and a scope of work. As he spoke, her excitement intertwined with a creeping apprehension. They were stepping into uncharted waters, and the prospect of failure loomed large. Would her impassioned vision withstand the scrutiny of reality? If strength is what we seek, we have to prepare for setbacks. What if we hit resistance? She asked, her voice edged with uncertainty. Jack leaned closer. Then we adjust. Learning is a part of this process. Think of it as climbing a mountain. The path may twist and turn, but reaching the summit is worth the struggle. And we'll ensure we have a support system in place. Though reassurance washed over her, the landscape of commitment felt daunting. Her past weighed heavily. The security of her stable nursing career still loomed as a shadow behind every spark of newfound hope. What if she failed to sustain this ambition? Could she relinquish the familiarity of her life, even for a chance at fulfillment? Jack, it's terrifying to think about risking everything, she admitted, a flicker of trepidation surfacing. But staying stagnant feels scarier. I get it, he responded, a mixture of empathy and reassurance in his voice. We have to lean into that fear, stand with it, and let it guide us towards something greater. And sometimes, truthfully, the greatest risks lead to the most rewarding destinations. Her pulse quickened, caught between fear and the intoxicating thrill of possibility. They stood on a precipice, a crossroads in which every decision could alter the trajectory of not only their futures, but also their intertwined fates. An idea formed in the recess of her mind, urging action. We can do this. Together. I'm ready to explore this project, create plans, weather any storms. But it starts here, now, with us acknowledging our fears and desires out loud, she declared, sensing a shift within herself. Jack's smile returned, wider now, igniting a belief in her she thought lost. Then let us begin drafting the initial framework. We can survey community needs, reach out to professionals, and gather insights. As they launched into brainstorming, laughter occasionally punctuated their conversation, each exchange coaxing out both their ambitions and fears. It felt surreal. Two individuals, no longer ghosts in their own lives, bound by a shared vision. Yet, even amidst the electric charge of creation, one question echoed loudly. How would her past, filled with obligations and established roles, contend with the freedom of her aspirations? In that very moment, a new notification shattered the space. A phone brilliant with urgency interrupted their dialogue. The sight of Jack's expression shifted once more, revealing a complexity she hadn't anticipated. Something's come up, he said, fingers hovering over the screen. I need to take this. As he stepped aside, Emily stared into the dimming night, realizing that her journey was about to encompass more than just her aspirations. It would also unveil parts of Jack he had yet to reveal. An unsettling wave washed over her, intertwining with anticipation. Would this new episode in their story deepen their collaboration, or would it pull back the curtain on an unforeseen complication? Emily stood alone, the tension in her chest tightening as Jack moved away, absorbed in his urgent phone call. The dim streetlight flickered above her, casting an uncertain glow over her thoughts. She grasped for clarity amidst the swirling chaos of her emotions. What weight did this moment carry? Would his distraction draw them apart, or give her the space she needed to confront her uncertainties? As she waited, a part of her rebelled against the stillness, demanding action. This wasn't just a casual collaboration. It was the investing of their dreams into a shared vision. Jack was so close to unraveling pieces of himself that she had sensed but not yet fully encountered. He had illuminated her own aspirations, and now that flickering notion, what if he slipped away? What if she continued to hide behind her comfort zone? Jack's voice broke through the murmur of the city street, rapid yet firm. She could decipher snippets: stress, deadlines, fluctuating negotiating terms. It disturbed her. The weight of his empire seemed detrimental. The idea of his life consumed by obligations made her question if he could truly step into this new venture alongside her. Did he even recognize the burden? She inhaled deeply, ignoring the biting chill in the air as she decided she would not let fear paralyze her. If she truly wanted to embrace this opportunity, she needed to shed her past hesitance. Perhaps she could find now would be the moment to illuminate a hidden talent, a courageous confrontation. Jack, she called as he was ending the call, determination seeping into her voice. Can we take a moment? I have something I feel should be addressed before we proceed. He turned, surprise flashing across his features. Sure, what is on your mind? Her heartbeat intensified as she deliberated on every word. I'm afraid. Afraid of failing. Afraid that your empire will overshadow this endeavor. Afraid of stepping into the unknown. But more than anything, I want you to know that I can contribute. I'm not just a nurse. I have vision. I can be a leader in this project. Reflecting intently, Jack seemed to wrestle with her revelation, his brow furrowing. This is bigger than just us, Emily, but your input is invaluable. You can't overlook your capabilities. I know that, she insisted, rising to the challenge of his understatement. What I mean is that I want the freedom to lead alongside you, not just support policies or procedures based on my nursing background, but to bring innovative approaches. I want to create a project that sets a foundation for true change. I don't want to see this slip through our fingers. The quiet between them now buzzed with raw energy, each breathing in the hard truth laid bare. Jack stepped forward, curiosity igniting in his eyes. What if we reached beyond conventional boundaries? What about experimenting with non-traditional methods? You could leverage your experience to create a model we haven't seen before. She absorbed his suggestion, feeling an inkling of empowerment swell within her. This was the pathway to potential growth, shifting her perspective from fear of inadequacy to one of innovation. And if I lived my truth as a changemaker? The idea excites me. We can challenge the status quo and build something transformative from the ground up. I knew you had it in you. His confidence radiated toward her, but beneath that glaze of affirmation, Emily sensed a looming concern. He was still tethered to complexities she couldn't quite grasp. Did it signify distraction, normal pressure, or something deeper? With each step forward, she felt the challenges of navigating their dual roles intensify. It was no longer simply the thrill of pursuing an innovative project. It was a confrontation of truths that dug deeper than either had planned. But lingering in Emily's heart was the unsettling thought of Jack's hidden layers. This new partnership could expose more than their aspirations. As he settled back beside her and initiated discussions on logistics, she knew that something important hung in the balance. This endeavor could either solidify their bond or unravel it. The unfinished conversation of their vulnerabilities loomed heavy, and she knew the moment was approaching when their greatest fears would face reality. Suddenly, another notification interrupted. Their phones lit simultaneously, but Emily's stomach dropped as she recognized Jack's expression shift once more. There's something I need to disclose. Something was confirmed in that call, he said hesitantly, his demeanor suddenly serious. In that instant, the tension swelled anew. What revelation was about to change everything? Would it threaten the fragile foundation they were building, or strengthen the ties binding their fates together? Emily swallowed hard, her pulse racing as Jack's eyes clouded with something that looked almost like dread. She glanced around the dimly lit street, the pulse of the city contrasting the sudden heaviness between them. The possibility of revelation hung in the air, thickening the space they occupied. What is it? She finally pressed, her voice steadier than she felt. Jack hesitated, grappling with the words that seemed to tighten in his throat. Emily sensed the struggle within him. The architect of grand visions appeared trapped by something unspoken, lurking just beyond their discourse. It's about the funding, he said, the words tumbling forth like boulders. We've hit a wall. Our primary investor has pulled out, and now we face a sudden shortfall. It's affecting everything. Shock coursed through her, but beneath it, a spark flickered to life. A challenge. Would this be the limit of their ambition? They were both on the brink of innovation, yet they were now fighting against the immediate tide of instability. What does that mean for our project? She asked, trying to unravel the implication of his news. It means we need to hustle. Fast, he replied, urgency playing across his features. We either find alternative funding, or we risk seeing our vision collapse. The nerves that had knotted in her chest twisted tighter. She had no idea how to find investors as quickly as they needed, but felt an instinctual urge to let her thoughts coalesce into action. What if we reach out to smaller firms? Maybe pitch to local entrepreneurs who see value in community-driven leadership? Jack's eyes brightened, but he remained pensive. That's definitely an option, but we need to craft a compelling proposal with a viable budget first. One that shows how this project can actually yield returns. Let's get started, she declared with newfound resolve, determination igniting the fear that had clouded her mind. She could channel her nursing background into this, creating a project that wasn't just about healing, but about pioneering a new approach to care. As they shifted from discussing logistics to immediate strategies, Emily found herself resonating deeply with the prospect of leading this venture. The shadows that had lingered in her mind peeled away as she envisioned the possibilities, leading with both her heart and her intelligence. But the excitement ultimately masked an underlying concern. Was Jack ready for this? Would his empire truly allow for the kind of collaboration she aspired to? She cautiously observed him, searching for signs of doubt as he fervently calculated costs and visualized timelines. How often have we underestimated our capabilities? She interjected, wanting to ensure their focus wasn't solely financial, but intentional as well. We have the vision. That's our strength. Jack paused, digesting her words. Yes, but we have to be realistic. Realism shouldn't choke innovation, she retorted, frustration creeping in. What if we harness the potential of our concepts, lead with passion, and trust that the rest will follow? A flicker of apprehension crossed his face. Passion is great, Emily, but at the end of the day, budgets matter. This is more than just ideals. His pragmatism clashed against her idealism, each perspective pushing them to explore uncharted territory. Maybe friction could spark creativity. Perhaps they could balance each other out if they learned to harness their differences productively. As they organized their ideas, a thrilling sense of belonging filled her. She wanted to impact, to assert hers and Jack's shared vision on this venture. But the foundation of their connection remained shaky. Would their personal bond endure through financial struggle and professional conflict? Just when she thought they were finding a rhythm, Jack's phone buzzed again, its insistent vibration drawing him away from their collaborative energy. Emily tried to read his face as he glanced down. It was an expression of unease, one she had come to recognize too well. Sorry, I need to take this, he muttered, stepping out of the moment once more. The potential retreat of their fragile alliance loomed as she peered toward him, uncertainty and fear washing over her. The stakes just escalated dramatically, and she could only wonder if the foundations they'd begun to lay would hold against the torrent now surging toward them. What if the next call changed everything? What if their greatest trial was just beginning? Emily leaned against the cold wall of the cafe, her gaze fixed on the spot where Jack had stepped away. An unease coiled in her stomach. The flickering neon lights outside formed a backdrop to her swirling thoughts, a blend of ambition shattered by doubt. What happened next would test them profoundly, she realized. As she waited, Emily reflected on how far she had come. Just months ago, she was a nurse focused on immediate wounds and care. Now, she found herself in a race against time, learning to navigate the complexities of startup culture. Was she truly ready for this challenge? Or was she merely riding the momentum of anxiety-fueled adrenaline? The call she would make next could determine whether this venture flourished or floundered. When Jack returned, his expression was strained, but for a moment, they both shared a silent understanding of their shared burden. We have to make every moment count, she said, breaking the silence, feeling a surge of resolve wash over her. Let us outline our proposal tonight. Jack nodded, but the lines of stress on his forehead remained. We have tomorrow's meeting with the local investors lined up. I'm drafting the budget and our objectives while you work on highlighting the core values of our project. Their paths were becoming clearer, but Emily felt the growing weight of responsibility pressing on her chest. She had envisioned their project as a beacon of hope, a chance to reshape care in their community. But as practicalities emerged, she sensed Jack's skepticism. She could see him compartmentalizing their vision into neat budgets and projected outcomes, a formula that tightly bound creativity with constraints. Jack, she ventured cautiously, what if we use some personal narratives in our pitch? It can highlight the heart of our vision instead of making it just about numbers. He frowned, adjusting his glasses. That's risky. We need the board to trust the model's emotion doesn't pay the bills. Numbers do. Her heart pounded in protest. Did Jack appreciate the potential of storytelling? Her experience as a nurse had shown her the power of narratives to inspire and connect. But don't you see? If we present our project as an emotional investment rather than a cold transaction, we might ignite a spark in them. People want to believe in something worthwhile. Jack crossed his arms, a defensive posture that made her pulse race. It's a valid point, but in this industry, facts overshadow feelings. Sometimes, it's the emotional narrative that drives financial support. She fired back, refusing to concede. The tension between them thickened, an electric charge that challenged her assumptions about collaboration. What would it take for them to find a balance? How could they retain the vision while grounding it in reality? Look, he exhaled, visibly torn. Let us run both angles and see if we can weave them together. We'll keep the budget clean, but punctuate it with human stories. A glimmer of hope flickered in her chest. That's the spirit. If we keep it compelling, it may motivate them beyond numbers. As they settled into a back-and-forth rhythm of ideas and revisions, Emily began to sense the emerging synergy between them, a capacity for blending pragmatism with passion. Time slipped away, and she didn't notice it was nearly midnight until the barista began shutting down the espresso machine. Their proposal had morphed into something tangible, imbued with a newfound energy. Yet, as they packed up their laptops, Emily's mind drifted to the call Jack took earlier. She sensed there was more to it, a lingering murkiness that darted beneath the surface. "Jack," she said, her voice softening, vulnerability emerging, "are you okay?" I could sense it was a heavy conversation. He paused, the mask of professionalism slipping momentarily. It was about some old business dealings. Nothing to concern us. But the hesitance in his voice sent a jolt through her. What was he withholding? Would it affect their project? "Let us not keep any secrets," she asserted, a ripple of determination surfacing. "We're in this together. Remember?" Jack glanced at her, a flicker of something indecipherable in his eyes. "You're right. We have to trust each other." The air between them felt charged with potential, but uncertainty loomed. Could their partnership withstand the challenges ahead? As they stepped out into the chilly night, the echoes of possibilities danced in her mind, but she couldn't shake the brewing storm on the horizon. What if their greatest asset became their greatest liability? The next morning arrived with a haze of uncertainty woven into Emily's routine. As she stood in front of her mirror, the reflection staring back at her felt like a stranger, someone tangled in ambition but burdened by self-doubt. She worked to smooth the wrinkles in her blouse, but faltered, her mind spiraling. Would her presentation resonate? Would Jack's strategies align with her vision? Was she ready to walk into that conference room and stake their future on the blend of narrative and numbers? The meeting loomed over her like a fog, swirling with potential pitfalls. A part of her fed on the adrenaline, while another part recoiled, anxious that their collaboration might crumble before they gained traction. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenge ahead. It was time to own her role, to stand tall as a co-founder, not merely a contributor. Out in the crisp morning air, Emily made her way to the office. The weight of the day's purpose felt distinct in every step. The city buzzed with life, people rushing in their own directions, purpose written in their movements. She couldn't help but draw inspiration from their urgency. Today, she needed to harness that energy. Entering the office, the atmosphere was electric. Jack was there early, pacing back and forth, papers flung across the table as if they had a life of their own. He glanced at her, a mix of apprehension and determination swirling in his eyes. "Morning," she said, trying for a light-hearted tone that belied the tension taut in the air. "Hey," he replied, running a hand through his hair. "We're cutting it close. Did you finalize the emotional narrative we talked about?" Emily nodded, pulling out her notes. "I think it's strong. I focused on stories that show how our innovation can change lives." She held her breath as she watched Jack process the information. "That's good. But remember, we need to stabilize these emotional points with facts and projections," he urged, but the tension in his voice felt less about the material and more about the upcoming confrontation with the investors. With all due respect, she interjected, her conviction rising, "If we don't lead with the heart, we risk losing them. People remember how you make them feel." "True," Jack conceded, but doubt crept into his expressions. But emotions can also cloud decision-making. Pushing through the uncertainty, Emily decided to share her personal narrative, her journey from healthcare professional to entrepreneur. I've seen firsthand the impact empathy can make in patient care. If we can convey that our project isn't just a business, but a movement for change, it has to resonate. Jack paused, weighing her words. I get that you have a strong narrative in mind, but you need to own it. This venture represents both of us. You're sharing your experience, but make sure it connects back to our financial viability. Realizing she needed to push past Jack's reservations, Emily felt a surge of determination. Then let us bridge both worlds. I can weave my story in with data, show them how personal investment aligns with fiscal responsibility. We need to present the facts as stories, not just bullet points. Okay, Jack agreed, the tension slightly easing. Maybe I was too rigid about that. As they collaborated, Emily felt the barriers between them start to fade. She focused on how they could amplify each other as strengths rather than merely coexist. Yet, the memory of Jack's earlier phone call nagged at her. What business dealings could threaten their stability? As they finalized their presentation, doubts loomed larger than before. She wondered whether Jack was ready to fully commit to their shared vision or if he would remain half-heartedly tethered to the safety of cold, hard statistics. The clock ticked away, each second amplifying the weight of the impending meeting. Emily's heart raced as the doubt coiled back into her stomach. She needed clarity. Jack, she began, feeling the weight of honesty pull her back. We need to address any shadows before we walk into that room. We're both all in, but I need to know you. Won't he back down if challenges arise? Jack opened his mouth, but an unsettling spark flickered in his eyes. The moment hung heavy in the air, tension crackling between them. What kind of revelation would Jack divulge about himself, about their project? And would it draw them closer together, or could it tear everything apart? As they stood before the conference room door, Emily's heart pounded, echoing the weight of unspoken fears and aspirations. Months of transformation had led her here. She could no longer see herself as a mere nurse, but as an architect of change. She was ready to present their vision not just as a collection of data, but as a vivid tapestry of stories woven from her own experiences. Jack glanced at her, a hint of uncertainty clouding his expression. She sensed the hesitation that lingered beneath his polished exterior, matching the doubt coiling in her own stomach. Would he truly stand beside her, or would past pressures pull him back into his calculated world of numbers? Emily, Jack said quietly, as if he was about to confide a secret. I know I've struggled with our approach, but I believe in you. Just remember this isn't just about the presentation. It's about what we stand for, what we wish to create together. At that moment, the tension between them shifted, clarity surfaced. They were allies against a world that often prioritized profit over purpose. Her resolve solidified. Monsters of doubt shrank in the face of their joint aspiration. They entered the boardroom, fortified by the shared ambition swirling around them. The atmosphere buzzed with executives, their eyes narrowed against the bright lights reflecting the potential of the day ahead. Emily summoned courage from deep within, channeling every sleepless night and every sacrifice she had made in her nursing career. She began the presentation. She interlaced her narrative with Jack's strategic insights. Imagine a community transformed, she beseeched, her voice steady and resilient. Imagine mental wellness support delivered directly to those who need it most, wrapped in empathetic care. We have the capability to change lives, not just fulfill quotas. Each word felt like a brushstroke, bringing their vision to life. Jack's support was palpable beside her as he articulated the potential economic impact and support mechanisms they had designed. Together, their synergy radiated off the walls. No more were they separately layered entities. They had woven their strengths into a unified front. The room was engaged, nods of understanding washing over the heads of CEO-level patrons. Emily found herself buoyed by their reactions, basking in the realization of her accomplishment. Genuine threads of human connection resonated within the walls of corporate indifference. Then came the tough questions. What about scalability? What is your plan for sustainability? From one executive, the inquiry struck a nerve, pulling at her insecurities. Jack's hand gripped her elbow reassuringly, and she understood this was their pivotal moment. With a calmness she hadn't expected, she replied, Our model prioritizes community integration, utilizing local resources to ensure longevity. This isn't just a one-off project. This is about changing the fabric of care, ensuring that emotional wellness becomes a cornerstone of health. The synergy of their partnership was now a dynamic force, turning the tides of initial skepticism toward intrigue. That moment crystallized for both of them a pivotal truth: she could lead, and he could evolve. They had manifested a presence that balanced idealism with pragmatism, allowing them to engage those powerful individuals as partners rather than just investors. As the presentation wound down, it became evident that the audience resonated with their vision. The palpable excitement that had bubbled through the room hinted that their aspirations were on the verge of materialization. Once the meeting concluded, applause erupted, and they shared a knowing glance and unguarded acknowledgement of their hard-won transformation. Each had crossed a threshold into uncharted territory, emerging equipped with confidence and clarity. "Incredible work today, Emily," Jack said, the pride evident in his tone. "You proved that authenticity connects. I doubted if I was enough, and you reminded me that it's about collaboration, not competition." "Thank you, Jack," she replied, her heart swelling. "I couldn't have done this without your belief in me. Together, we've created something vital not just for us, but for countless lives that will change because of our commitment to this cause." That moment crystallized Emily's journey of transformation. A nurse had emerged as a leader, one not afraid to challenge the status quo while bridging disparate worlds. Beneath that glow of shared triumph, Emily felt a balance shift within her, a lasting recognition of her capabilities. As weeks melded into action, their project secured initial funding, and they set to work on implementation. Emily stepped fully into her role as a founder, blending her medical expertise with Jack's business acumen. Their partnership flourished, rooted in mutual respect and vulnerability. Jack began to open up, sharing deeper layers of himself, revealing the struggles and victories that had brought him to this point. Walking down a sunlit street one afternoon, Emily looked up at the skyline of Chicago, feeling the weight of her past dissolve. She was no longer terrified of stepping into the unknown. She was embracing it, fertile ground nurturing every dream she had feared to pursue. Her journey had led her to a convergence point in vulnerability-driven partnership, forged through shared ambitions. She stood taller, her identity intertwined with vision born from risk-taking. This was it. A new chapter awaited, boundless with potential. Emily had accomplished what she once thought impossible, not only stepping into her aspirations, but thriving in their pursuit. Reclaiming her voice transformed into a vibrant force of change, she was ready to climb any mountain that lay ahead. "Here's to new beginnings," she said to Jack, who smiled broadly. They clinked their coffee cups together, marked by the pact of endless possibilities that lay in the horizon. This was the moment to step into their future, one where every challenge would become a stepping stone toward monumental success. Now is your moment to join us. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will enrich your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this impactful Ending Your Voice Matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting our community through these actions. Let us flourish together.